Today I'm going to show you how the Morningstar MC6 Pro saved my live rig. Freebeat. Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome to Freebeat. Today's patron shoutout goes to Robbie Frechette. Thank you so very much for the support. Also, I've got a couple of free live stream concerts coming up. Freebeat Live 2024, I'm calling it. You can catch the first show on Friday, July 19th at 7 p.m. Pacific, and the second show on Saturday, July 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific. Those are both going to be right here on the channel. Free live stream concert. Come hang out, enjoy some music. It's going to be a good time. Hope to see you there. Now, really quick before we begin, I want to disclose a bit of an interesting situation, one that I've never been in before. You see, I actually reached out to Morningstar about sending me one of these pedals to check out a while ago, and then I actually booked my first gig, so I just went ahead and bought the pedal with my own money. I hadn't heard back from them and I needed it like ASAP, so I bought one. And then after the gig, they actually responded and offered to reimburse me for the pedal if I went ahead and made the videos that I was already going to make. So while I did pay with my own money for this pedal, and I was already going to make these two videos, technically Morningstar did send this to me. It all kind of works out like that. So yeah, kind of an interesting situation, but I did want to disclose that to you all. With that out of the way, let's get started. First off, let's talk about what the Morningstar MC6 Pro actually is. Simply put, it's a MIDI controller. It's got 6 momentary guitar pedal style switches, 3 color displays, and a bunch of I/O. Using the software-based editor, you can basically assign any pedal to send any conceivable MIDI command on any channel to any of the outputs. That's selling it short, but for the sake of brevity, just know that it's an absolute monster of a controller. Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about my live rig. Now, first and foremost, I've always considered myself a traditional musician. I grew up playing the drums and dealing with sheet music and working with orchestras and proper ensembles. And even though I do have a YouTube channel about electronic music, I wanted my live rig to reflect my love of playing live and physically playing instruments. So that was at the forefront when it came to my live rig. So I came up with this concept of using an electric drum pad, in my case the Roland SPD-SX, a versatile sampler/sample player in the Roland SP404 Mark II, a keyboard controller, the Arturia KeyStep, and running all of that into a looper pedal, in my case the Boss RC600, to actually play my songs live. No backing tracks, no synchronization, high risk, high reward. However, I quickly realized that this setup by itself was not going to make for a very engaging show, or in some parts even a possible show. For one thing, I want to maintain a relationship with the audience and interact as much as I can. And when I'm constantly having to worry about, tons of foot switches and hitting the right one at the right time, it's really hard to do that. I'm constantly looking down at my feet, trying to hit the right pedal on the looper. And also in some of my more complex arrangements, I need to access multiple looper functions at the same time, which you can't really do by default on the RC600, and I don't even think most loopers let you do that. So I kind of had to start doing a little bit of problem solving. After some research, I landed on the Morningstar MC6 Pro. The first thing that tipped me off to it was that it has the ability, I should say, to fire off up to 32 MIDI commands with the push of a single button. That in itself is pretty crazy, but it was the next feature that really got me, which was the fact that you can actually stack those sequentially. So you can press a pedal and then press it again and it'll send a different message, and then again a different one, and then again and a different one, up to 32 messages that way. Then I started to get an idea. I came up with the end goal of wanting to just use one pedal for the entire show, just simply by programming the Morningstar MC6 Pro with a bunch of, I guess I'll call them events. So for instance, I push the pedal once, it starts the click track for recording in my ear. I push it again, it arms the looper on track 1. I push it again, it stops recording on track 1 and starts looping on track 2. I push it again, it stops track 1 entirely, stops looping on track 2, starts looping or recording a loop on track 3, and fires off a one-shot on, say, the SP-DSX or the SP-404 Mark II. As I was thinking through this, things were seeming kind of far-fetched, but once I got a pen and paper out and started writing out the changes I would need to program, it started to work. And this was aided by learning that the Morningstar MC6 Pro actually has custom MIDI CC LFOs, basically. It can do custom CC waveforms. So think of it just, basically as LFOs for CC numbers, although it can also do like basic envelope shapes too, which was really handy, and I use that quite a bit in my set now. The I/O of the MC6 Pro also very much shaped my decision to pick it up, particularly the dual USB Type-C ports, one for power/computer connection, and another that acts as a USB MIDI host. This meant that I could use any of my USB MIDI controllers with the setup, and I wound up settling on the Novation Launch Control XL, which is one of my favorite controllers. So once my pedal showed up, I began messing around with it, and I had it triggering my sampler and working with my looper in a matter of seconds. It was simply a matter of setting the right MIDI notes and channels, no surprises there. It wasn't until I really started diving into the software editor that I realized just how deep this thing could go. The MC6 Pro has 128 separate banks. I think of these as songs, at least that's how I have them laid out in my pedal. Each bank contains 24 presets, and these presets are simply the MIDI commands per pedal. So, like I mentioned earlier, each preset can contain up to 32 different MIDI commands, and any pedal can trigger any of the 24 presets within a bank. Actually, let me take that back. Any pedal can trigger any of the 24 presets from any bank. Crazy. That's so much versatility. So as I was beginning to work on my one pedal dream setup, I discovered a flaw. I don't believe that the intended use for the kind of sequential triggering of events was for actually triggering things in real time. I think it was more for like scrolling through presets and stuff like that. And that's because the only way to enact a command to scroll down to the next one is on a button release, not a button press. Now for a moment I was pretty disheartened because I thought that all of this had been for nothing and that it wasn't going to work. But then I sat there for a second and I realized that this pedal is so powerful it can actually outsmart itself. You can get around its shortcomings just by using its built-in features. Remember when I said that you can use any pedal to trigger any preset on any bank? Well, you can actually use any pedal to trigger any action on any preset of any bank. Each pedal has a list of actions that can all trigger their own commands: press, release, long press, double press release, and more. So I simply set a press action on preset A to trigger a release action on another preset. In my case, I used preset X. Then I went ahead and started programming my long sequential list of commands on preset X. The end result is pretty simple. When I enact a press action on preset A, it then enacts a release action on preset X, and thus triggering through my events. If I needed a command on that list to include multiple commands, I could simply use preset X to then trigger another preset with the proper commands set up. It might sound confusing, but I'm basically using the MC6 Pro's ability to have any pedal trigger any preset to be able to access any command on any preset that I want, all just using one pedal, and have those scroll sequentially. Speaking of that one pedal, I'm actually not a big fan of these guitar pedal style momentary switches, but luckily using the expansion ports at the back of the MC6 Pro, I was able to easily add the Boss FS5U and map it to trigger preset A when I press it. The next piece of the puzzle was figuring out how to actually switch between the different banks, or songs, while in the middle of playing a show. Again, this was no problem. I just simply used the built-in MIDI filter to map the forward and back buttons of my Launch Control XL to change the current bank, again, what I call songs, on the MC6 Pro, and organize the banks to correspond to my set list. Then, using the bank editor, I set each bank to send program changes to all of my gear when the bank was entered. This means that with a simple button press, I can either go forward or back in my set list, and not only does the pedal change what song is active, but all of my gear changes what song is active. And the last step was to go in and program the screens for each of my songs. With the editor, you can have whatever text and colors you want on the 3 screens, which is super nice. I kept it simple: the name of the song and the tempo in the middle, the words next event on the next event pedal. Again, remember this is actually the Boss FS5U here. And the word reset on the upper right pedal. I actually set that pedal to reset the scroll order, the scroll list of those commands. So if I messed up in rehearsal, I could just hit that pedal and it would jump back to the top of the song. Just made rehearsals a lot smoother. So after all that, I'm super happy to report that it all just works. When's the last time I've said that? When it's time to program a new song, I simply plug the MC6 Pro into my computer, open a new bank, and work through the different changes one by one. The software has lots of copy and paste shortcuts to make things less tedious, and once you get started, the process goes by pretty quickly. I know this isn't the intended use for the MC6 Pro, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't save my live rig. It simply just ensures that I can focus almost all of my effort on stage into playing all of the parts and interacting with the audience. All I have to worry about at my feet is one little pedal. Well, and the kick drum pedal, of course, but that's a different story. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in a comment down below. If you'd like to see the live rig in action, you can check out my upcoming free live stream concert, Freebeat Live 2024, streaming live on both Friday, July 19th at 7 p.m. Pacific and Saturday, July 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific, right here on my YouTube channel. I do hope you found this video informative or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.